So this is number 1 on your trig proofs worksheet. So remember, the one main thing you need to do when using your trig or doing trig proofs is you really need to know your trig identities. Both the reciprocal, the quotient, and the Pythagorean identities are going to be the most useful when we're doing proofs. The other ones we've learned are more useful when we get to solving, which will be after break. So here is number 3 on your worksheet. It's cosine of x equal or times tangent of x plus sine of x cotangent of x equals sine of x plus cotangent squared of x. Remember, any step to a proof is first picking a side to work from. I generally pick the more complicated side or the left side. So you're going to rewrite that. That's what we're going to start with. So I get cosine of x times tangent of x plus sine of x cotangent of x. And now that's the only piece I can work with. I'm not going to work with this other side. That's what I want to get it to. But we can keep this in our mind to help us kind of figure out where we want to go. Well, we know we want to get to sine x plus cosine squared of x. Well, all those that this is in sine and cosine. It's in terms of sine and cosine. So my first step is I'm going to rewrite this entire thing in terms of sine and cosine. So then I'd get cosine of x, because that's already cosine. I can rewrite tangent of x using my quotient. Remember, tangent of x is equal to sine of x divided by cosine of x. Then I still have plus. Sine is good. But then cotangent I don't like, so it's sine times. Remember, cotangent is cosine of x over sine of x. So all we did was we rewrote tangent as sine over cosine, and we rewrote cotangent as cosine over sine. So once we do that, then we can simplify this. So I'm going to go ahead and simplify. This is still cosine of x. This is still sine of x over cosine of x plus, well, when we do this, this is technically over 1. So you get sine times cosine over sine. The sines will cancel out, and you'll be left with plus cosine of x. Now, I could try to get a common denominator, because I got 2 fractions, or I don't want this out front, because I know I'm not timesing anything by cosine out here. So I'm going to distribute that cosine of x through. So cosine of x times sine over cosine, the cosines will cancel out. And if you need to see it, I'll write it out the long way. You do not have to write it out the long way. It's just to help some of those people see. So I distributed that cosine of x through. And then cosine times cosine is cosine squared of x. Then from this step, I know these 2 cosines will cancel out. I'm left with sine of x plus cosine squared of x, which was where I wanted to end up. So then you put your little box, and we're done with our proof. So that's all there is to number 3. Now number 4. Again, the first step to any proof. Writing the side that you think you want to start with. Generally, I always try to start with the left or the more complicated side. So I'm going to start with the left. So you rewrite that. Now, a lot of people's first choice is always to put things in terms of sine and cosine. But we have a tangent over here. So for now, I'm just going to leave it tangent. So the only thing we could do from this is figure out, well, what is 1 minus tangent squared? That is not a trig identity because this does not just get distributed. Remember, what squared means something times itself. So this means I'm going to take this, so 1 minus tangent of x, and times it by itself, 1 minus tangent of x. Now, the only thing I really can do after I rewrite that is distribute this out or multiply it out. So when I do that, you get 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times negative tangent is negative tangent of x. Negative tangent times 1 is negative tangent of x. Negative tangent x times negative tangent of x becomes a positive tangent squared of x. So then we'll simplify that. So what I'm going to simplify is this So I have 1 minus, there's 2 of these, so 2 tangent of x plus tangent squared of x. And we know we're on the right track because we have the minus 2 tangent of x. So now the only thing we want is secant squared. Well, if you think back, I'm going to write off to the side. We have a couple identities. We have cosine squared x plus sine squared x equals 1. We have 1 plus tangent squared x equals secant squared x. And we have cotangent squared x plus 1 equals cosecant squared of x. So these you should always keep in the side of your brain. The reason I'm looking at this is I know I want a secant squared. Secant squared is here. So if we look here, I know secant squared is equal to 1 plus tangent squared. So in order to get secant squared, I need to find a 1 plus tangent squared. Well, just so happens I have a 1 and a plus tangent squared. So these can go together, and I know 1 plus tangent squared is equal to secant squared of x, and then I still have the minus 2 tangent of x. And that's the end of that proof, because I got where I wanted to be. So then you put your little box, and we are done with our proof.